Have you ever wondered why the soul would choose to be born into the very place where love feels scarce, where silence is heavier than words, and where you feel like a stranger in your own bloodline? Some lives begin in warmth, wrapped in tenderness and belonging, but others, perhaps yours, begin in fire. A child enters a house not of safety, but of shadows. The walls hold secrets no one names. The air carries tension thicker than smoke, and every glance across the dinner table feels like an unspoken demand to hide who you truly are. Imagine being that child, sitting at the table with laughter echoing around you, yet inside feeling the piercing ache of invisibility. Everyone talks, but no one speaks the truth. Everyone smiles, but beneath the surface there is a silence that cuts deeper than a blade. And as you sit there wondering why you feel so different, a whisper rises within. This is not punishment. This is initiation. Carl Jung believed that the soul is never placed randomly. He taught that the self, that deeper intelligence guiding your existence, does not always seek comfort. It seeks transformation. The ones born into chaos, into fractured love and inherited wounds, are not mistakes. They are chosen not to repeat the story, but to break it. And maybe that's why you've always felt like the black sheep, the misfit, the one who couldn't follow the unspoken rules. You see patterns others refuse to acknowledge. You feel emotions others bury. You hear the unvoiced cries that ripple beneath the silence. What if this was never a flaw, but your soul's hidden calling? Because there is a sacred truth buried in that wound, a revelation that explains why the most sensitive, intuitive souls often enter the harshest homes. A truth that reframes exile not as curse, but as path. The question is, if the family was the first battlefield, what hidden blueprint did your soul choose, and why? There are moments in life when reality feels heavier than it should. You wake up with the same dream replaying itself night after night, a strange symbol etched into your sleep, a face you cannot name, or a voice whispering words that dissolve the moment you open your eyes. Yet the feeling lingers, haunting you through the day. You dismiss it at first. Just a dream, you tell yourself. But deep down you know, dreams are not accidents. They are letters written in the ink of the soul, slipped beneath the door of your consciousness, begging to be opened. Maybe you've glanced at the clock and it reads 11:11 again, or 3:33 or 4:44. The numbers follow you, on receipts, on street signs glowing back from your phone. You laugh nervously and call it coincidence. But why does your heart beat faster each time? Why does it feel like someone, somewhere, is trying to get your attention? Perhaps you've walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift, thick and heavy, even though everyone else carries on as if nothing changed. Your chest tightens, your skin prickles, and you sense what no one else will name. There is more here than meets the eye. Or maybe you felt it in your body, an ache that medicine cannot explain, a weight in the chest when you're surrounded by conflict, a knot in your stomach when you're about to make a choice that isn't right for you. The body becomes an oracle, whispering truths the mind has learned to silence. And then there are the moments you cannot shake, a song that plays at the exact instant you're thinking of someone you've lost, a stranger who speaks the very words you needed to hear, a sudden wave of peace that washes over you in the middle of despair, as if unseen arms have wrapped around you. These are not random. They are signals. Carl Jung believed the soul speaks in symbols, that what we call coincidence is often the hidden language of the unconscious, a bridge between what we see and what we refuse to see. To the untrained eye, it looks like chaos. To the awakened one, it is a code. And those born into families where love is scarce, where truth is silenced, often develop the sharpest eyes for this language. You've been listening to what others ignore. You've been seeing what others pretend not to. But here lies the pain. Carrying this awareness often feels like exile. You sense the patterns, but no one else acknowledges them. You notice the shadows, but when you name them, people tell you you're imagining things, being too sensitive, too dramatic. And so you learn to doubt yourself, to wonder if maybe they're right. Yet the signs never stop. The numbers still appear, the dreams still repeat, the body still trembles when truth is hidden. The universe doesn't tire of speaking. It waits for you to finally listen. Every ache, every symbol, every whisper in your sleep is an invitation. But an invitation to what? Why are you the one who keeps seeing what others miss? Why do you feel like the messages are written just for you? If your life has been filled with strange patterns, if you felt the sting of invisibility and the weight of secrets, it may not be coincidence at all. It may be the signature of a soul that chose to wake up inside the silence. And if that is true, then every unanswered question in your heart is pointing to a deeper revelation. So pause for a moment. Think of the signs that have followed you, the numbers, the dreams, the feelings you can't explain. What if they are not warnings of your weakness, but confirmations of your purpose? And if that is the case, then the real mystery is this. What sacred wound could be hiding inside those signs, waiting to show you why your soul chose the family, the body, and the life you now live? There is a sign so common, so subtle, that most dismiss it as coincidence. Yet in the language of the soul, it is the first great secret. I'm speaking of numbers that repeat, the mysterious 1111, the haunting 333, the constant 717. These are not random digits glowing back at you from clocks, receipts, or license plates. They are messages in code, signals that the invisible is speaking directly to you. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that carry the weight of destiny. He taught that when the inner world of the psyche aligns with the outer world of events, a door opens between the conscious and the unconscious. But to the awakened, this door is not just psychological, it is spiritual. Think of the ancient scriptures. Numbers were never mere quantities, they were sacred carriers of truth. The Bible speaks of the 40 days of fasting, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 7 seals in Revelation. Each number was not chosen at random. It was a symbol, a vibration, a hidden key to divine order. When you see repeating numbers, it is as if that same sacred order is whispering, "You are seen, you are aligned. Pay attention. Consider the number 1111. To the distracted eye, it's simply 4 digits in a row, but look again, 2 pillars standing side by side like a gateway. For centuries, mystics have described 1111 as the moment of awakening, the instant your soul stands at the threshold of a new reality. When you catch it on the clock, it isn't that you happened to look. It is that the universe pulled your eyes to the doorway. Or think of 333, the number of completion multiplied, the Trinity echoed threefold. To some, it is the call of angels. To others, a reminder that your prayers have been heard. But at its heart, it is an assurance. You are not walking alone. Even in your family's silence, even in the heaviness of rejection, there is a presence guiding you through the shadows. Now, imagine this. You are sitting in your car, tears in your eyes, unsure if you can keep going. You turn the ignition and the dashboard glows 444. At that moment, you feel it. A calm you cannot explain, as if an unseen hand rests on your shoulder. That is not math, that is mercy. Jung believed these signs appear most vividly to those born into struggle. Why? Because suffering sharpens perception. Those who live in chaos learn to notice the slightest shift in tone, the faintest symbol in the dark. The very wound that made you sensitive is the wound that now allows you to receive messages others cannot see. This is what Jung called the sacred wound, the break in the soul that becomes the opening to the divine. Think of the child in a toxic family. They hear the tension before words are spoken. They sense the storm behind the silence. They survive by becoming watchful, intuitive, awake. And what feels like survival in childhood becomes sacred sight in adulthood. That child grows into the adult who sees repeating numbers, who dreams prophetic dreams, who feels the ache of truth before it surfaces. What once was pain becomes perception. Even Jesus pointed to this when he said, "Let those who have eyes to see, see, and those who have ears to hear, hear." He was not speaking of physical eyes or ears. He was speaking of the hidden senses, the soul's capacity to perceive beyond the veil of appearance. The signs around you, dreams, numbers, visions, inexplicable moments, are the same whispers he spoke of. But here is the hidden meaning, the part few are willing to name. These numbers and synchronicities are not only comfort, they are assignments. Each sign is a call to action, a reminder that your life has a blueprint. You were not born randomly into a toxic lineage. You were sent there precisely to awaken in the dark, to break the cycles of silence, to heal the roots that others were too afraid to touch. And so the numbers appear to remind you you are not lost, you are chosen. Every time you see them, it is as if heaven itself is tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, "Remember why you came." If you've felt the pull of these signs, if your heart has burned with the mystery of seeing what others do not, then you are already part of something greater. A hidden circle of souls scattered across the earth, awakening one by one. And I want to invite you to deepen that connection. If these words are speaking to you, if you feel the fire of recognition rising inside, then take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Not just to support a channel, but to enter a community, a circle of seekers, a gathering of those who know the sacred wound is real and who are ready to transform it into light. Because what you've just discovered is only the first revelation. Numbers and synchronicities are the opening chapter of a much greater mystery. The question that now rises is this: if the signs are calling you, what hidden story are they trying to lead you back to? Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Sarah who grew up in a house where silence was louder than love. Her father rarely spoke, and when he did, his words carried the sharp edge of anger. Her mother moved like a shadow, always careful, always quiet, as if life itself had taught her that staying invisible was the safest way to survive. Sarah, the youngest of three, often felt like a ghost in her own home. She laughed when she was supposed to laugh, sat still when she was told to, and hid the parts of herself that longed to be seen. But there was one thing she could never ignore. Every night, without fail, she dreamed of doors. Wooden doors, metal doors, glass doors, some locked, some half open, some waiting at the end of long hallways she never dared to walk. She would wake up with her heart pounding, sweat on her forehead, and a question lodged in her chest. Why do I always see doors? As she grew older, the dreams followed her. She'd be in class and feel a sudden pull to look at the clock, always 11:11. She'd pay for groceries, and the receipt would total 33 33s. She didn't tell anyone. Who would understand? Her siblings would laugh, her father would grow angry, her mother would only say, "Stop imagining things." So Sarah carried it alone. Until one night, everything changed. She had been sitting on her bed, tears rolling down her face after yet another fight at home. She whispered a prayer, not even sure who was listening. "If I matter, if I am meant for more than this, give me a sign." At that exact moment, her phone lit up with a notification. The time read 11:11, and for the first time, instead of fear, she felt warmth spread through her chest. It was as if someone had whispered back, "You are not forgotten." The next day, she told herself it was just chance. But then the dreams began to shift. The doors she once feared now glowed with light. She walked closer in her sleep, hand trembling on the handle, and in one dream she finally opened it. On the other side was not her house, not the silence she knew, but a vast field bathed in golden light. She woke with tears in her eyes, the kind that cleanse rather than wound. That was the beginning. She started to notice the signs not as curses, but as companions. When she doubted her worth, the numbers appeared. When she felt trapped, the dream doors returned, each one pulling her forward. She began journaling her experiences, writing down every pattern, every whisper, every vision. Slowly, she realized something profound. The wound she carried was not punishment, it was initiation. She had been chosen to feel, chosen to notice, chosen to step through doors no one else dared to open. Years later, Sarah would say that those signs saved her life. They reminded her she wasn't invisible. They guided her to therapy, to books that spoke of Jung's teachings, to communities where people shared the same impossible stories she once hid. What she once believed was madness turned out to be her soul's compass. And maybe, as you hear her story, you feel a flicker of recognition. Maybe you too have asked for a sign and received one in a way that felt impossible to ignore. Maybe you've carried dreams that return again and again, pressing against your spirit like doors waiting to be opened. If you've lived something like this, if you've ever felt the strange hand of destiny guiding you through numbers, visions, dreams, or whispers, share it in the comments. Tell your story, because this is not just a video, it's a community. I read your words, and in future videos, I may speak your name and share your testimony so others know they are not alone. But Sarah's story leaves us with one haunting question. If the signs can lead us out of silence, what deeper truth are they preparing us to face once we finally walk through the door? If the first great sign is the mystery of repeating numbers and synchronicities, the second sign runs even deeper because it doesn't arrive on a screen or a receipt or in the patterns of time. It arrives inside your own body. Have you ever noticed how your chest tightens when you're about to betray your true self? How your stomach knots when you're around someone who drains you, even though they smile politely? Or how a sudden wave of calm floods you in places that feel safe, even if nothing extraordinary is happening? These are not random biological quirks. They are the second great sign, the language of the body as a spiritual compass. Carl Jung often spoke of the psyche expressing itself through the body. Ancient mystics said the same, though in different words. The body keeps the score, not only of trauma but of divine messages. In toxic families where words deceive and silence hides the truth, the body becomes the one voice that cannot be silenced. It trembles when the energy is wrong. It softens when the soul is in alignment. Think of it as the sacred instrument your soul plays when words fail. Headaches that arrive only when you're with certain people. Fatigue that clings to you after conversations drenched in lies. Or on the other side, goosebumps rising on your skin when truth is spoken. Tears welling in your eyes at the exact moment your spirit recognizes something eternal. Here is the hidden meaning. Your body is not betraying you. It is guiding you. Each ache, each flutter, each inexplicable sensation is a signal, pointing you toward what heals and away from what harms. But how do you listen? How do you know when it's not just stress or fatigue, but a message from the soul? Let me give you a simple practice, a technique you can begin right now. The body scan of truth. Sit quietly for a moment, feet grounded, hands resting gently on your lap. Close your eyes and breathe slowly in through the nose, out through the mouth. Bring to mind a situation you're facing, a relationship, a decision, a memory that still echoes. As you hold it in your awareness, shift your attention to your body. Where do you feel it? A tightening in the throat, a weight on the chest, a flutter in the belly? Don't analyze, just notice. Now ask silently, body, what are you telling me? Wait. The answer doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it comes as a loosening, sometimes as a stronger ache, sometimes as a sudden clarity in your mind. This is how you begin to decode the second secret, the sacred language of sensation. In Scripture, the prophets often trembled when encountering the divine. Moses' face shone after speaking with God. Jeremiah described the word of the Lord as a fire shut up in my bones. The ancients knew what we are just beginning to remember. The body is not an obstacle to spirit. It is the vessel of revelation. So when your heart races without cause, when your skin prickles in a silent room, when your breath deepens at the sound of a truth, you are not broken. You are being spoken to. The body becomes the altar where the soul whispers. And here is the empowering truth. Anyone can access this. You don't need to be a mystic or a scholar. You don't need rituals carved in stone or sacred chants in forgotten tongues. You need only to pause, breathe, and listen to the wisdom already alive within you, because the body will not lie, even when everyone else does. Now imagine if you began to live by this compass. How many mistakes could you avoid? How many relationships would you leave behind sooner? How many doors would you dare to open if you trusted the trembling in your bones as much as the logic in your mind? This is the gift of the second secret, to reclaim the voice of your body as the oracle it was always meant to be. But there is something even deeper, a third sign so rare and so hidden that few recognize it for what it truly is. It is not found in numbers, and not even in the body. It belongs to the realm of shadows and light, where the unconscious spills into waking life. The question is, what if the most powerful sign is not what happens to you, but what you begin to see in others? There is a sign that surpasses numbers on a clock and sensations in the body. It is older than language, deeper than thought, and more radiant than anything the eyes can fully hold. This sign is not outside you, and it is not only inside you. It is the bridge where heaven and earth meet. It arrives in moments you cannot manufacture. A sudden stillness in the chaos, a piercing clarity in the fog, an overwhelming sense of presence when you are completely alone. Some call it divine visitation. Others call it unity consciousness. Jung called it the eruption of the self, the moment the soul breaks through the veil of the ego and whispers, "You are more than this body, more than this family, more than this pain." This is the third and most profound sign, the sacred presence. It may come as a dream that feels more real than waking life. You wake with tears streaming, not from sadness, but from recognition. It may come as a vision during prayer, a sudden image of light, or a voice that does not speak with words, but imprints truth directly into your being. It may come in silence, a silence so full it roars louder than thunder. For the mystics of old, this presence was God, the Christ within, the Spirit descending like fire. For quantum thinkers today, it is the collapse of the boundary between observer and observed, the moment when consciousness recognizes itself as the fabric of reality. Two languages, one truth. You are not separate. You are part of the eternal. Think of Moses at the burning bush, a shrub on fire, yet not consumed, a paradox alive before his eyes. And from within the flames, a voice. I am. That moment was not just about Moses. It was about every soul called from exile into awakening. The bush burned to show him what already lived inside, a fire that cannot be extinguished. Many who are born into toxic families experience this presence, not in temples or mountaintops, but in the most unlikely places. A hospital bed, a bus ride home, a night lying awake in despair, and suddenly the veil tears. For one breath, one heartbeat, they know they are held, they are chosen, they are eternal. The presence floods the wound, and the wound itself becomes the altar. This is the climax of the sacred wound, the realization that the very pain that threatened to destroy you is the place where God, Spirit, consciousness, whatever name you give the infinite, enters and makes a home. I want to pause here, not for drama, but for truth. This channel, these words you are hearing now, they are not crafted for profit. They are spoken with passion, with reverence for the mysteries that bind us. So if you feel your soul stirring, if you sense that these truths belong to you, I invite you to subscribe and like this video, not as a transaction, but as a gesture of belonging. Each subscription is another voice in this community, another flame in the circle of seekers who refuse to live asleep. Together we are building not an audience, but a sanctuary. Now, return to the presence. Can you recall a moment when it brushed against your life? Perhaps in a dream, a whisper, a surge of peace in the middle of chaos. That was not imagination. That was invitation. The sacred wound cracked the surface and light entered through the fracture. Jung taught that individuation, the journey to wholeness, requires facing the shadow, integrating the pain, and then transcending it. The presence is the confirmation that this path is real, that your suffering has meaning, that your exile is the birthplace of revelation. And here lies the hidden mystery. Once you taste this presence, life can never be the same. You cannot go back to pretending. You cannot go back to silence. You cannot go back to being the ghost in your own story, because you now know, beyond intellect, beyond doubt, that you are chosen, not cursed, that you are a bearer of light, not the victim of darkness. But this revelation leaves us trembling with one last question, one final truth waiting to unfold. If the sacred wound is the doorway and the presence is the fire within it, what is the mission it ignites in your life? The purpose that your soul has carried across lifetimes, waiting for this very moment to awaken. Perhaps now, as you sit with all that has been revealed, you can feel it, the thread that runs through every strange sign, every recurring dream, every number that flashes before your eyes, every trembling in your chest, every encounter with the presence that left you undone. These are not random fragments of experience. They are pieces of a map, a sacred cartography drawn not on paper, but on the very walls of your soul. From the beginning, you may have thought you were cursed, misplaced, forgotten in the noise of a family that could not see you. But look closer. Each silence was training your ears to hear the whispers of the invisible. Each wound was carving space for light to enter. Each rejection was bending you toward a truth bigger than belonging. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to awaken. Carl Jung believed the soul selects the conditions most capable of shaping its destiny. And if you are listening now, if these words resonate deep in your bones, then you already know you were chosen not because it would be easy, but because it would be transformative. You carry the sacred wound, yes, but you also carry the sacred calling. Look at your life again, the patterns, the synchronicities, the weight in your chest when truth is denied. These are not accidents, they are invitations. Invitations to rise above the scripts written by silence and fear. Invitations to live as the cycle breaker, the light bearer, the healer of generations who could not find their voice. And here is the hope. You are not alone in this. Around the world, souls like yours are awakening. Black sheep who see what others deny, empaths who feel what others repress, seekers who dream of doors and dare to open them. Together, you form a hidden community, a constellation of lights piercing the night. And every time one of you listens, every time one of you awakens, the entire world shifts a little closer to healing. So take this as your confirmation. The signs you've seen, the wounds you've carried, the presence you've felt, they are real. They are proof that your life has purpose. Proof that your suffering is not the end of your story, but the beginning of your transformation. Now I want to invite you into something even deeper. If this message has spoken to you, don't keep it inside. Write your name and your city in the comments below. Let me know where you are listening from, because in the next video, I will read your name aloud and send you a blessing. A small gesture to remind you that you are seen, that you belong to this circle of seekers. And while you're here, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, not as a habit but as an act of communion. With each like, with each subscription, you strengthen this community and allow these messages to reach other souls searching in the dark. Together we are building more than a channel. We are building a sanctuary of voices, a living circle of remembrance, a community bound not by blood, but by spirit. So breathe deeply. Place your hand over your heart. Feel it beating. The oldest rhythm in the world, the proof that life, even through pain, is still sacred. Whisper to yourself, I was not cursed, I was chosen. My wound is my doorway, my life is my offering. And as you step forward from this moment, hold on to one final truth. The signs that brought you here were only the beginning. There are mysteries still hidden, revelations still waiting, and doors still unopened. And soon they will be revealed, because the story of your awakening is not over. It has only just begun.